Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome to the channel. Say it with me. Today is a good day. Because today is a new Revoslot day. Better than that, there's two. So, of course, the two new Revoslots that I'm talking about are the pair of Datsun 510s from Revoslot. Brand new out. The Datsun 510 is a car that people have begged and begged some manufacturer to make for years in a 132 slot car. And, you know, it's one of those things. All of a sudden, Revoslot have done this. Slottit have also got one that is in production, I believe. But Revoslot have got here first, and they've done a stunning job on these cars. Now, ordinarily, you would expect me to give you a little bit of history about the car and a bit of backstory, but to be honest, there's going to be an awful lot of reviews of these cars on YouTube over the coming weeks, I'm sure. And there are other people who are more into the particular racing series for this car than me, who will probably do a better job of telling the story. So I will leave that to them. And as a bit of a departure for me, I'm going to do something slightly different. I mean, first of all, obviously, let's just take a look at the two cars. There's the red 46 John Morton car and the blue 35 Mike Downs car, both in the BRE liveries. There is, as always with Revoslot, a release of 3 cars. The third being this number 52, which is red with the white and the stars and stripes, which is Harry Stewart's car from 1974. That one just kind of didn't appeal to me so much. These are the two iconic cars after all, and I suppose the next most iconic one is the one that Paul Newman drove, with that modified number on the door. And I'm sure at some point Revoslot will release that. Revoslot, please release that one, please. So, usual things in the packet. The sheet inside, all of the parts, all of the part numbers, the usual high quality Revoslot stuff, and all the optional parts and spares on the back. Interestingly, on these cars, in the packet you get a pair of windscreen wipers. There's a slight problem with those because they've got those nice extended bits so you can poke them through the holes and, you know, put a soldering iron on and melt them in from the back or glue them in, except that they haven't actually drilled the holes in the car, so you can't fit them unless you've got a very tiny drill and you want to accurately drill a couple of little tiny holes in that very obvious part of the body, which, I don't know, the risk of scratching something, I'm not sure I'd do that, and I'm not going to. So, yes, I do like Revoslots, but they're not perfect in every way, and even this one, much as it is something I've desired, is not perfect in every way. It is, however, incredibly detailed. I'll show you a couple of real close-ups of especially the front here. This Datsun badge is tiny. I mean, really tiny. Even with my best reading specs on, I struggle to read it. But as you'll see in the photograph, it is perfect. Again, the lines are crisp, clear. The paint finishes on both of them is immaculate. Little details on the back quarter, and even the rear, the tailpipe, and the fuel filler. So now, here's the bit that's different. When I got these out of the box and I looked at them, I then went and showed them to Mrs. Slot R. And what she said next was exactly what I was thinking. So I thought, this is where I'd go off on a bit of a departure and go along those lines of conversation. Now, what she said, and what I thought as well, was, When I looked at it on the website and I looked at the photographs of them, I would have bought the red one because it just looked better in the photographs. However, in real life, this blue is a lot better than it comes over in the photographs. And I think, to a certain extent, if I went and saw them together at, say, a slot car show, I'd have bought the blue one. I mean, I know I've got both of them, but you understand my point. This one is more appealing in real life. This one is more appealing in pictures on the internet, on websites where you'd buy it from. Yeah, strange. And we both thought the same thing. I mean, you know, they're lovely. But I think, actually, the blue one is nicer because I think the red's quite heavy, and to a certain extent the blue gets a little lost, whereas when it's the other way round, you've got the blue and the red really does pop. You know, this is interesting when we're talking about painting white kits on this channel and what to do with liveries and the sponsor being able to be seen at speed. I think the blue one is probably more successful for that, certainly as a slot car and probably in real life as well. So the other thing here is I'm not going to put a chip in both of them. I'm going to leave the blue one analog, and I have actually already chipped the red one. Now I won't go through the whole chipping process. If you go and look at my gold and black Escort, the wooding one, in the Revoslot playlist, you will see fairly detailed how you put an FT slot Technic chip in one of these little Revo slots. I mean, briefly, measure 12.5mm across there, drill a 3mm hole, wire it up, and stick everything down with a bit of blue tack. Works lovely. So they're blue inside, these ones. All Revo slots seem to be a different colour inside. These ones have anodised blue pieces. There's one with a chip installed, and there's one as it came from the factory. There's a little bit of inconsistency here in that this one came from the factory with a nice big piece of white grease on the gears, and this one has come bone dry. So, you know, check those over. Obviously also, because I've had this in the past, check these 3 motor screws are tight and adjust the mesh, because if one of those falls out and goes in the slot, you're not going to find it. It takes ages. It happened to me once. Trust me, you don't want that to happen. Tyres, as always, have got kind of a groove and a ridge down the middle. The rears, to be honest, just a little bit of sandpaper on the tack and take the high points off in a few laps, and they'll be round and they'll wear in quite nicely. The fronts, well, I've got a little trick for that, which I'll show you in a minute. So, why am I leaving one of them analog? Well, as you might have seen from some of my Instagram posts and my community tab posts, I am building a digital analog switch box for my Carrera track. So I thought what I'd do is keep one of these analog, make one of them digital, and then when I've got the switch in, we can do a proper compare and contrast of the same car in the different formats of racing, if you like, just to see what the driving experience is. Is it different? If it is, how is it different? So we'll do that in the future at some point. But I guess for now, you probably want me to tidy up these front tyres and do a few laps with this red one. So let's go for that. So then, let's talk about this little trick with the front wheels I mentioned earlier. See, the thing with any cars with stub axle front wheels is you can't just take the axle out and stick it on a tyre truer. So using this Dremel attachment, and this is a very coarse grit, but it's nearly worn out on this drum, so I'm all right with it. But you can, I've looked, get them up to 300 grit, so they'd be ideal. Now I just have taken to running this at a slight angle across the tyre, which means it spins the tyre, but it also sort of scrubs it at 20-30 degrees, which will just take all those kind of moulding marks and flashings off the tyres. And no, it's not going to perfectly true them, but they're front tyres. But it will get them round, it will take the high spots off. It's not ideal, but it's a lot less faff than, trying to true them any other way. So there we are. A few little bits of stray kind of shavings there, just pick those out of the way, put the car back together, and off we go to the track. So here we are, just basic truing on the tyres and a bit of oil. And immediately, as with all of these Revoslot Group 2s, it's very drivable out of the box. There's a little bit of chatter from the rear tyres just while they just finally wear themselves perfectly round. And then once they've bedded in after a few laps, this car just becomes an absolute joy to drive, as you would expect from a Revoslot. It's very planted. It's very much like driving the Mark 1 Escort or the BMW 2002, although I would say it's actually even more forgiving in the corners and lets you throw it even harder into a bend than the Mark 1 Escort does. It just seems to stick. I mean, you can crash it, and I'm sure I will crash it, but you've got to be really trying hard. Oops. So yes, there we are. The Revoslot Datsun 510, a truly amazing looking car, and a car that you wouldn't be surprised to learn within a few laps threw in a nice 5.63 second lap on my track, which puts it within a tenth of a second of both of the Mark 1 Escorts, both of the Opel Kadets, and the BMW 2002, all by Revoslot, all in the same series. And that is the beauty of these cars. You can get another one, it can look different, it can handle subtly differently to the previous model you may have got. But if you get the hang of getting it round the track, you will get it round the track in about the same time as all the other cars in the same class. And this for me is where Revoslot really wins out. They've got a formula here whereby they can produce a car, and whatever your track is, all of these cars seem to produce the same kind of lap time on the same track. It's fantastic. And these, they look fantastic. I could wax on about them forever, couldn't I, really? But as I say, I hope they do the Paul Newman livery. There's a couple of other liveries that might be quite cool as well. And while you're at it, I don't suppose you could do a Fiat 131, could you, Revoslot? Please? That would be lovely. As always, thanks for watching one of my videos. If you liked it, you will find a button specifically for that. Please subscribe to the channel, it really does help. And if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification the next time I post a video. And of course, check out this slot car channel.